All my friends and colleagues have all passed away in January from that accident.
All of them?
All of them.
You're the only one left?
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
It's hard. They weren't my friends.
Without the dog, you could have gotten killed.
Right, we could have gotten killed. Sometimes they have special helmets for these dogs. They always have eye protection all the time. They wear these giant goggles, these special iridium goggles like you see on the astronauts' helmets. So there's these, rules and regulations and protocols specifically that you have to follow when going through any mission-oriented portal traveling, because if you don't, things can go bad really quick.
Welcome to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, George Noory, and I'm here with Emery Smith. Portal missions. What's it like to enter into another dimension? Emery, welcome back. This is going to be fascinating.
Thanks for having me, George.
These portals, what do you have to do to gear up to go into one?
Yes, there's a lot behind that. Not only just getting in shape for this, because you might be going somewhere where the air is a little thinner. And, if you haven't been training at high altitude, you're going to have a hard time, trekking a half mile out and a half mile in. So there is a lot of physical fitness training you do have to go through based on the mission. The mission also, by the way, it's not like they call you up and say, oh, you're going away tomorrow. No, this is something that's planned out for months and months and months and months in advance. So you get to meet your team, you get to establish a rapport, establish, personality profiles with each other, and get to get that camaraderie to work together for the mission. So what we do is, the first thing that would happen is there will be a mission plan, let's say 3 to 6 months out, and they would get a group together. And it depends, what the mission is for. Do they need a botanist? Do they need, what kind of,
a medical doctor, something.
Right. What is the mission? What kind of engineers you need for this mission? What type of geologist do you need for this mission? And so it's a very specific thing. And there's usually around 6 to 7 people in a team. There's always a medic that can do, 3 or 4 different things. There's usually a security person that also can do 3 or 4 different things. And then you have the main, scientists that are there for specifics, for whatever that mission. So we'll go through 3 months of, number one, just education of, the background of where we're going. So we get to see the debriefings of the past, 150 missions.
Seems pretty intensive.
It's very intensive, and it's a lot of information all at once, because there's some things you can touch, there's some things you can't touch, which they found out the hard way. So there's these, rules and regulations and protocols specifically that you have to follow when going through any mission-oriented portal traveling, because if you don't, things can go bad really quick, such as the weather, such as someone getting injured. Even something like that will slow up the mission tremendously. And when you only have, anywhere from 15 minutes to a few hours max to do your mission, you really have to optimize that time. So it is this kind of a running in and running out type of thing, for safety reasons, because like I said, they haven't really conquered how long that door stays open.
Do they know where they're going once they enter the portal?
Yeah, in the briefings, we have lots of video, lots of pictures of prior teams going in and out, so we have an excellent idea of what we're going to expect. It's like reading the map of London before you go to England to visit, and you kind of know what's going to be there. There are, however, occasions that, sometimes this asymmetrically doesn't work out so well. Yeah. And there was one time where we actually went to a place, and it was the wrong place. And
the wrong place?
It was the completely wrong place. We were supposed to arrive in a desert. We arrived in a tropical, jungle bog. And it was we weren't prepared. The suits were not prepared correctly that we had to use. The equipment was wrong. And luckily, we were able to turn around and get out of there before the last man came through, which, it was just a different area.
Sure.
And this area, we'll have to go back because maybe this was an area that was never explored because we've never seen it before.
What else could go wrong that you wouldn't anticipate?
Some of the scariest things are the geological events on planets that you're not familiar with. We sometimes bring these special dogs that are trained for frequency, and they can hear and tell you before an earthquake happens or a volcano erupts.
Okay.
And they have special senses that they've been trained on. They also can smell certain things. They've been trained as a puppy to learn different scents of minerals, different scents of plant life, different scents of different types of genetics that can smell, many different things and sense and hear frequencies that we can't hear. There was an incident where we were walking and there was like an underground bubble just a few feet below the ground, and someone was just walking and stepped on it, and it released this noxious, this very poisonous gas right through the surface. And you could see it, this.
Without the dog, you could have gotten killed.
Right, we could have gotten killed. So they can pick up on the slightest little things. And so it's a protective measure.
Do the dogs that you take, are they wearing special outfits too?
Yes, they are. They have, it depends on where we're going and what type of environment's there. Sometimes they just go as themselves with the little backpack and all their equipment.
A little leash and off you go.
Right. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes they have special helmets for these dogs. They always have eye protection all the time. They wear these giant goggles, these special iridium goggles like you see on the astronauts' helmets when they go to these things. Some of these can be waterproof. They actually have special designed like suits for these dogs where they actually have their own helmet system, and they have ways to breathe the atmosphere for testing. So that, it just depends on the type of mission and where they're going.
Is there a specific breed that is better than another? Like
No.
German Shepherds or something like that?
No. Some of the breeds that we use mostly are Mastiffs because
Those are big dogs.
They're big and burly, and they can carry a lot of weight. And you have to understand when you put a dog in a suit, and a lot of weight, you do need some strong animal to do that. Plus, their sense of smell is really good. And that being said, going back to the threats, one of the scariest things for me are like earthquakes, which I've been involved with hardly ever on planet Earth, but through these events, like it just happens.
Sure.
Also, storms can brew up like out of nowhere. So we have a lot of cool equipment. We have, specialists that monitor the weather. Sometimes we have also types of like robots that are with us that collect this data, and using special equipment to monitor the area, just the atmosphere, the ground. Special sensors are in the ground.
In case something changes.
Right, and you have the dog too, and then you have the team that are just trying to get their job done. We're just trying to get in and get out safely. That's our job, and very mission oriented. We have special suits depending on where we're going, depending on the pressure and how hospitable the areas that we're going to be going to. Sometimes we have our own pressurized suits. They're kind of like a thin astronaut suit, but not as, you couldn't like survive in a spacewalk for sure.
What about helmets, though?
Yeah, we have helmets that we use today for salvaging space wreckage. It's a very, like a hexagonal helmet that comes onto your suit. And you're in constant contact. Everyone's always in constant contact until you see something that's really amazing. Like one time, the sky at one of these places was constantly changing colors. It bleeds from like light blue to violet to pink to yellow to red. It's like this weird cosmic colors, like the whole sky does this. So we thought it was just because of where we were that our eyes couldn't really see. We thought it was, a problem with the human body was not able to, but they linked it to some sort of atmospheric gas that was surrounding the planet, kind of like the Aurora Borealis. The whole sky was like this. So it kind of made us sick as we were, hiking down this trail, I remember, and the constant changing of the colors were making us like nauseated. So they had to use a special film that they made special helmets just for this planet that allows the sky to look the same color all the time.
So you're saying the changing colors had some impact on how you felt?
Yes, it did. Yeah, it had a nauseating type of feeling that everyone experienced, even the dog.
Now, you had mentioned the members of the team. Some were medical, some were security, a lot of scientists. Who picks the team?
Well, there's these team managers that are put in place in these things that have been running it for a very long time. Some are very new, some are very old. So they go in and say, this is what we need to do for this specific mission. We need to get this type of crystal, we need to get this type of plant, get some samples of this type of water. I was fortunate enough to do a dozen of these, because they always need a field medic. They always need someone with the experience I had with the biology of plants and animals and extraterrestrials and things of other than Earth origin. So I was harvesting, plant material and crystals and dirt and water and things like that. At the same time, I was also security and also a field medic.
How many missions were you on?
About a dozen.
Of all the missions that you have, is there one that really stands out, and can you tell us what it was like?
One of the missions that we went on was this planet I was telling you about. It looked like a desert, and it had this color-changing sky. And I'll have to get back to that because it was probably one of the most amazing places I'd been, because the lakes that were there and some of the trees and things were all this, bioluminescent, iridescent colors. And they weren't putting off light, but the light from the atmosphere was reflecting off of them.
Okay.
So it was like a chrome world, where, plants and very large trees, like you could not see the tops of these trees, kind of like redwoods, but more like redwoods that looked like Christmas trees. So really big, like that triangular formation type things. And kind of like pine needles,
like
too.
a mirage almost.
Right, it's like a mirage, but not blurry. Everything's crystal clear.
Yeah.
But I think it was because of all this, the reflection that and the lights from the atmosphere, I think, were making everyone, nauseated when you were trying to do your job. So I was lucky enough to go back there one other time, and with these helmets, and they were allowing us to easily just see in one color spectrum. And it wasn't affecting us, and you could see really clear. The water was the most amazing thing because it looked like the liquid in a light sticks. Did you ever see those light sticks?
Yes.
Like the kids use on Halloween?
Yeah.
And then so the whole lake was like this bioluminescent, moving, and it was just a lake, and it constantly had small waves. And we didn't understand, how could this small lake, maybe 20 acres or so, have like waves in it, like, 2 feet waves.
Because it's self-contained, right?
Yeah, it's self-contained. And this is also one of the first places I experienced the earthquake, which is very unsettling. When you're doing something as a team, sometimes someone else has to go, maybe 300 yards away from, you. So we're kind of spread out a little bit. And we don't stay together like scuba divers. We go out and do our thing. We all have maps already of what we're supposed to do. We have special GPSs that we could see on our heads-up display. We know where everyone's at. We can immediately find out, if you're with me, I was like, what's George's heart rate? Is he okay? Plus, the robot that's with us is always monitoring everything. So if something did happen where someone even, they have gyros in these suits, so they know if we fall. So they will know immediately if we fall, it'll set off an alarm, and that's also scary because we had someone, fall off a small cliff, and because the ground looked like it was solid, but it wasn't. And this is another thing with the geologists that are there, and they take these seismic imprints from these robotic units that will shoot like a wave, a frequency or a sonic wave into that, and it builds. So we want to know where we're at. Is that ground even supported, because you could just be walking along and poof, he's gone. So before we do that, we get there, the robot runs all the tests on the atmosphere, on the ground and everything. We have this, perfect volumetric images of everything, so we know, all right, this is safe, up into this area. But, these things happen. And then as soon as someone gets injured, now the mission is aborted, just becomes a life-saving mission.
One person gets hurt, you all come back.
You cancel the mission and you bring the person back.
Let's say you've done your mission. When do they send you out again?
It depends. Like I said, you might be training for 2-3 missions at one time. So you might be, in that 3 or 6 months preparing to do maybe a mission, every other month. It just depends on what what they called you to do, what missions they want you to be on. I've never really done a mission in more than one per month. I've never done 2 in the
That's
same.
still a lot.
2 in the same month, but I was only part of that program for a short period.
Where do you train on this planet?
You train in the facility, wherever that facility is. This facility was in northern New Mexico in its own section, I'll say, not associated with the bases or
Underground?
Underground. And they have an area there that is like a classroom, very basic, and you get to talk to sometimes people that have already been there. So every day it's kind of like a little school. You have about 2 to 3 hours of education. And then you have, of course, your physical fitness is about 3 hours a day. And then you also get trained in how to work the robots and the different types of computers and different types of devices you're going to be using. You go through scenarios where we'll actually dress up and just walk outside in the desert, and just use our equipment, get very comfortable with it. We'll do fake things, a lot of fake little missions before we go to make sure everyone's comfortable. And then we do, of course. And then we go. And then a lot of times too, we also, just when pilots are doing pilot training, and they're on these simulators, they do the same thing with us. They say, well, what happens when so-and-so falls off a cliff? What's the protocol? Bam, bam, how are we going to do that? What happens if, someone brings back a bad biological agent? What do we do then?
Has that happened?
Yes, that has happened, where we got quarantined for 2 weeks, all of us.
Jeez.
And luckily, none of us it was on the suits. And
well, what if this organism got loose throughout the planet?
Well, this facility is a vacuum air sealed tight room where these portals come through. And what they do is they have special devices, kind of like a Rife machine, but a lot larger, that can scan like a whole football field, and it knows if there's a foreign microorganism on you, like a virus, a negative ionic, some sort of negative cellular material. It knows how to pick this up, and immediately as you come through that, you have to stop.
Alarms go off.
Alarms go off, and they have to sanitize the whole room. They use ethylene oxide gas, they use frequency devices, they use it, and you just get blasted. Okay, and then from there you have to go through a separate part of the building that's an airlock and sit in there like an HBO chamber, and then they have to monitor you for 8 hours. You're just sitting in there, and you can't use the restroom, you can't do anything. And then at the same time, after that gets cleared, then you go through a regular, what we call decontamination, where they just go and you walk through this hallway and it sprays you with water and all different types of chemicals, and then you're free to change out. And then you have to go through a 2-week evaluation where you're put in confinement, with the team. And they have special underground apartment complexes for this reason that's completely airtight sealed. And then you just kind of live there.
Do you have friends that you have gone on missions with that you still collaborate with?
All my friends and colleagues have all passed away in January from that accident.
All of them?
All of them.
You're the only one left?
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
It's hard.
Good people?
Yeah, they weren't my friends.
If you enjoyed this, make sure to watch the next video on Awaken Zone. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, but you won't want to miss what's coming next.